Hello, it's IINO. This time, I bring you logistics news for June 2023. We will discuss North American labor negotiations, decarbonization efforts, and acquisitions and investments in the shipping industry. Let's get going. Labor management negotiations at North American West Coast ports finally reached tentative agreement. On June 14, the PMA, the employers' organization, and the ILWU, the labor union, announced that they have reached a tentative agreement on a new 6-year collective bargaining agreement for the West Coast ports of North America. The term of the new collective agreement is expected to be retroactive to July 1, 2022, when the previous agreement expired, and the two parties will now proceed to formalize the agreement. Labor management negotiations at U.S. West Coast ports, which began in May 2022, have been unusually protracted, with the most recent slowdown by the union, leading to a partial shutdown of port functions. However, in a sudden turn of events, a tentative agreement between labor and management has been reached, and it appears that the logistics disruption that had been feared will be avoided. At this time, the specific terms of the new agreement tentatively agreed to by the two parties are not yet known. Hydrogen-fueled barge debuts in Europe. FPS, Future Proof Shipping, a zero-emission shipping company, has launched H2 Barge 1, a zero-emission vessel. The container capacity of the barge has not been disclosed. However, FPS claims that, by sailing several times a week between Rotterdam and BCTN's inland terminal, the barge will save 2,000 tons of CO2 per year. Hydrogen-powered barges are critical to the future of shipping, according to the CEO of FPS. Kuehne+Nagel acquires South African logistics company. European international logistics giant, Kuehne+Nagel announced on June 6 that it has agreed to acquire South Africa-based logistics company, Morgan Cargo. With the Morgan acquisition, the company has increased its presence in Africa, and will further accelerate its efforts in the Middle East and Africa. Morgan is a forwarder, with its own offices in the UK and Kenya, in addition to its headquarters in South Africa. The company is strong in handling perishable cargo, and its annual cargo handling volume, in FY 2022 will exceed 40,000 tons by air, and 20,000 TEU by sea. By becoming part of Kuehne+Nagel, Morgan will be able to improve connectivity between its customers in the countries where it is based, and the network of cold chain facilities and other facilities that Kuehne+Nagel operates in various locations. MOL and MLG to partner with Kenyan logistics company. On June 12, MOL, Mitsui O.S.K. Lines, together with its group company, MLG, MOL Logistics, announced that it had signed a memorandum of understanding with Kenyan logistics giant GCS Velogic on May 26 for the purpose of a strategic alliance. By signing this memorandum of understanding, MOL aims to contribute to solving logistics issues, creating new industries, and developing the economy in the region, by combining the MOL Group's global network and expertise in the shipping, infrastructure, and logistics industries with GCS Velogic's network and logistics business know-how in the East African region. CMA-CGM expands investment in French media. French shipping company CMA-CGM announced on May 25 that it will acquire 100% of the shares of La Tribune, a French digital media operator. As part of its diversification strategy, the company has been increasing its investment in French media since last year, reportedly with the aim of increasing its presence in France. In 2022, CMA-CGM acquired two French media outlets, La Provence and Course Matin, and also has a partial stake in TV station, M6 Group. The company said that La Tribune's expertise in digitalization, which it acquired this time, and its track record in organizing events, will put it on par with the two French media it acquired in 2022. Here is the commentary section for the logistics news. Labor management negotiations on the North American West Coast, which began in May 2022, have finally reached a tentative agreement. From the outset, there were strong indications that the negotiations would be difficult to reach the agreement, and they lasted an unprecedented 13 months. Although progress has been made, Since the beginning of this year, with labor and management agreeing on several major items, the conflict between them has turned around in June. Tensions rose as cargo handling functions at major ports were suspended, due to union disputes and other factors. Although labor and management eventually reached a tentative agreement, according to local news reports, the past week has been a mess of strikes and lockouts, or agreement, and we didn't know which it would be. Labor management negotiations, which dragged on for as long as 13 months, led to a noticeable shift by shippers away from unstable West Coast ports and toward East Coast port routes. Terminal operators in the West Coast ports were becoming increasingly dissatisfied with the protracted labor management negotiations, and some believe that this atmosphere has put pressure on unions and other parties to reach an agreement. Market demand in North America has tightened considerably, with the Consumer Price Index at 4.0% year-on-year in May, and about 9% at one point. Due to continued inflation and high prices, consumers are no longer buying goods. This would likely reduce the demand for transportation this Christmas season considerably. If this trend continues, spot freight rates will continue to fall, so shipping companies will probably increase the number of inactive vessels and adjust supply. It remains to be seen how the upcoming peak season for shipments to North America will turn out. I followed with news of the launch of a hydrogen-fueled zero-emission ship. Hydrogen is currently not feasible on long-haul routes. It is because its energy density is half that of conventional marine fuels, which requires larger storage tanks and reduces cargo capacity. However, it is useful for short voyages on smaller vessels. The current awareness among major shippers in Japan is said to be the SDGs. Large companies consider price important, but they must also do something about the environment. Especially for Europe, carbon taxes and CO2 emissions trading under the EU ETS has become an important market for decarbonization initiatives. This video featured a hydrogen engine barge, but hydrogen fuel is still technically under development. Among decarbonized energies, methanol and LNG are the fastest developing. Methanol can reduce CO2 emissions by about 10 to 15% compared to conventional heavy oil, and Maersk has ordered many methanol carriers. In addition, ammonia has already been transported and stored for fertilizer applications, and engine development is underway. Technology is advancing rapidly, and we may be getting closer to the realization of hydrogen and ammonia container ships, as we have seen with the debut of the hydrogen barge. I brought you news of the acquisition of Kuehne+Nagel. The company has continued to acquire logistics companies with strengths in their respective regions to strengthen its perishable logistics operations. The company's acquisitions include Pan-Atlantic Logistics in Ecuador in 2018, Worldwide Perishable Canada in 2019, and Salmast, a Norwegian company specializing in seafood forwarding, in 2021. Kuehne+Nagel explains that its expansion in high-growth markets such as Africa is in line with its current business plan Roadmap 2026. The corona disaster has made major companies record profits, and their funds are flush with cash. Mergers and acquisitions will certainly increase in the international transportation industry in the future. Next, I reported on news of Japanese companies' expansion into Africa. The MOL Group's portfolio and regional strategies, in its Blue Action 2035 management plan, call for the development and expansion of new logistics and other non-shipping businesses in emerging markets, including Africa. GCS Villogic, which signed the Memorandum of Understanding, provides customs, trucking, supply chain, and logistics digitalization services, with approximately 170 trucks, and a dedicated team of approximately 490 people. It is headquartered in Nairobi, with offices and warehouses in Mombasa and Nauru. The MOL Group has already been providing coordinated services for inland transportation through outsourcing to the company. Recent news seems to indicate that Western and Japanese forwarders are expanding into Africa. Africa is a market that is just beginning to develop, and because infrastructure and IT have not been developed to date, the latest technology is being introduced. at a stroke with leapfrog. African expansion will continue to increase, and it will be important to keep a close eye on where companies are investing. The world is changing rapidly, so I think it is important to follow it properly and fight where it is easy to win. Finally, here is news of CMA-CGM's media acquisition. La Tribune, now acquired by CMA-CGM, has 17 offices in France and Africa, and focuses primarily on important economic issues, such as technology, climate change, and responsible investment. The company has already moved to a 100% digital model, and are the largest online media in the business and financial domain. CMA-CGM has acquired several media outlets in France, in the short term. The shipping industry is volatile, and while earnings are good when they are good, they are also risky. On the other hand, the media is a place where you can reach many people. Even if it is not connected to logistics, having media that can reach a large number of people will enable a variety of developments. Logistics is not going away, but we will continue to focus on CMA-CGM, which is expanding its logistics business, while simultaneously expanding its media business. How was the logistics news this time? The logistics industry is expanding its business in many directions, including acquisitions by major companies, expansion into Africa, and media acquisitions. I will continue to update the information. If you found this news informative, please subscribe to our channel, like us, and share on social networking sites. That's all for this time. Thank you very much.
In this channel, I explain about international logistics knowledge for your better understanding. I hope this video will be a good support for your logistics job. If you have any shipment from Thailand or to Thailand, please feel free to contact me IINO-san anytime. Also, I'm very motivated to keep updating these videos. If you subscribe, press good or comment anything. Well, thank you. See you next time.